Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and it's time for part 2 of the Q&A, so let's go ahead and knock this out. Alright, first question. Do you think there's a link between physical strength and conservatism? I don't really get into a lot of politics on this particular channel. I don't think it's necessary when discussing strength training and health and fitness to be particularly political. I have a separate channel where I talk about those things, so I'm not really going to approach this with any bias. But the answer to this actually should be common sense. And what they've looked at in data, yes, they have found a strong correlation in men between physical strength and how right versus left wing you are. That's absolutely been found. And it doesn't mean that it's an absolute, because I can assure you with absolute certainty that there are probably guys who placed in the top 50 in the world in powerlifting who voted for Obama and Hillary Clinton. Okay? Period. That's just common sense. And I can assure you that there are quadriplegics who can't move at all below the neck who probably voted for Trump. Okay? You can't look at it in the terms of black and white thinking. Now, the researchers, what they noted, it makes sense. Without getting into any sort of political debate, when we think in the generalist terms, left-wing ideologies tend to be collectivism, right? They're about collectivism. Most right-wing ideologies lean in the direction of individualism. Doesn't it make sense that physically stronger males would believe more in individualism as a tendency? As a tendency, not as an absolute rule, not even as a across-the-board rule. But just as a tendency, when you look at the data, stronger, more physically fit, more physically capable men are going to tend to have a more individualist idea, that the power of the individual. Whereas in weaker people are going to tend to look towards the group for protection, for resources. And that's all that really says. It doesn't make any sweeping statement. So you do see people on the other end of it. You know, I do see right-wingers here jumping up saying, oh, that proves that left-wingers are all cucks. No, it doesn't really prove that at all. It's just common sense when you think about it in those terms. But, you know, what you will note is that strong men who believe in collectivism are more than happy to jump in and do their share. So, I mean, it kind of works all directions. There's no point in basing your political ideas on this. All right, next question. Hey, Jason. Thanks for all the awesome info, as always. My question for you is, when doing Bulgarian light/high frequency training, working up to your daily minimum to daily max, how long do you take between sets for rest? I feel like I could take 3 or so minutes, but I seldom feel that I need it if I'm using truly explosive and perfect form like I should be, especially on this type of program. Also, if I'm doing 6 days a week and work a normal 9 to 5, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and have one day that I'm doing submaximal deads, when do you think the best day off would be? I was thinking Sunday if I'm doing the deads on Saturday. Not sure, honestly. Thanks for everything. You're really making a difference. Cheers. All right, good question. Really good question. What I would say as far as that goes, yeah, you could take 3 minutes initially, but you're going to need 5 minutes. If you're actually working your way up to training maxes and you're making, say, 5 kilo jumps, trying to find your daily training max, you're going to want 5 minutes when you start getting close to that peak. You're going to want 5 minutes. Because here's the thing, let's say you hit one and you don't know for sure if the next one's going to be your training max or not, and you only take 3 minutes or 2 minutes, you will probably have shortchanged it, and that's not how Bulgarian training works. Furthermore, it's not like you don't have time to ramp up to it. When you're doing Bulgarian training, you're not doing a bunch of accessory lifts. You're coming in and squatting and benching. All right, if you need an extra 10 minutes to reach your training maxes, you take the extra 10 minutes to reach your training maxes in the workout. You know, you're probably dedicating an hour to hitting those maxes, to ramping up to them. Now, some people will say, like, well, hey, that's a lot of time. I don't want to do that. Well, then Bulgarian training is not for you. Bulgarian training is to make you extremely good at maxes. That's the whole purpose of it. It's not for people who have other priorities, and that includes free time. Because, again, hitting a max squat 6 days a week and taking the time to ramp to it is more time intensive than you think it is. It's not a minimalist program in the sense of you're trying to get in and out of the gym quick, so you're just going to hit a quick max. That's not what Bulgarian training is about. Now, as to your deadlift question, if you're doing a max squat Monday through Saturday and you want to take Sunday off as your day off, yeah, Saturday would be a great day to deadlift. Absolutely, because then you have a full break. You have a full day of resting and recuperating and eating before you start the max cycle over again. So I think you're on the money there. All right, next question. I have a closed grip bench of 315 with a pause, but I can only just get 225 for 4 for incline press. What is my problem? By the way, my flat bench is ass on bench, slight arch with a second pause on the chest. Obviously, the obvious answer is that incline is harder. Incline is harder. Furthermore, let's assume that 4 rep is maybe 85%, right? So it's time to do some calculation. So realistically, if you're doing 4, your max is probably in the range of, just ballpark, 264. 264. That's about a 50-pound difference between your pause close grip and your incline. I don't think that's unusual for guys with longer arms. Now, if you're a really short arm guy, maybe. But if you have longer arms or you're a taller guy or any of those things, I don't think that's that big of a gap. That's just your strength ratio. That's just your strength ratio. And if you were to plug that into, say, some percentages, let me break out my calculator here. So let's say 265 divided by 265 divided by 315. Yeah, about 84%. I don't think that's unreasonable, especially when you consider that most people's standing press ideally should be about two-thirds of their flat bench. So you're about halfway between the two on probably a steep incline. That's normal. Nothing wrong with that, bro, unless you specialized in the incline, and some people do that. I think that's a reasonable ratio if you actually train both. It would improve if you specialize in the incline for 6 months or a year. But your ratios right now are perfectly normal for a guy with relatively long arms, in my experience. All right, next question. Hey Jason, I've been running your intermediate program for non-athletes and it has been working out well. My question is, why do you progress in the 5 to 8 rep range as opposed to, say, the 1 to 3? Your current program is set to do a weight that you can get 5 for 5 and gradually increase 8 reps. Is there an issue with starting with a heavier weight for 1 to 3 and progressing from there? Thanks for all the awesome content. Because really that program for non-athletes is intended for just general strength purposes. When you start doing triples and lower, we are getting into strength specialty. And people who can't dedicate the time to strength specialty, because you're going to need more work sets to get the hypertrophy, it's not ideal. That program is intended to get people in and out of the gym as quickly as possible and just get the most bang for their buck. Right? They're getting the most bang for their buck. The 5 to 8 is going to give you the best balance of strength to hypertrophy ratio with the minimal number of sets. When you start doing 1 to 3s, you're going to be in the gym an extra 30-40 minutes to stimulate the same amount of muscle growth with the hopes of getting better peak strength. It's not ideal, particularly for someone without the time dedication to do it. Hey, I'm all for someone who says, I'm serious about my goals doing high sets of triples. People who are serious about their goals aren't going to be as concerned with a time-intensive program like that. And it's not like you're not going to make gains on that. If you're progressing in the 5 to 8 rep range, you're going to get bigger, you're going to get stronger all the way around the board, and all elements of your strength. And that's why it's done that way, to get you the most bang for your buck in the shortest amount of time in the gym. All right, next question. Hey, Jason. Can you go over your thoughts on the decline bench press? I like to switch out the flat for the decline every 2 mesocycles and do the same with overhead by switching over to the incline. I tried switching to dips instead, but I am unfortunately one of those people who aren't built for it. Thanks. I'm not really a fan of the decline bench. If I wanted to get the benefits of a decline bench, I would just do like a 1 or a 2 board press. And some people are like, what? What do you mean? Because the decline's a partial. Now, you might have a different structure than me, but I have always found that the decline bench cuts 3 to 4 inches out of the bottom of my bench press because the bar hits my ribs, right? So because it's basically like having an enormous arch on the bench press. That's really what a decline simulates, that it just really cuts the range of motion down. So me personally, I don't like the exercise. I don't consider it to be a productive exercise. And it's more dangerous than just using boards. If you just want to trim the range of motion down and skip the bottom, you could do that with a board press with far less risk of the bar rolling up and hitting your throat, without having to have a special bench, without having to deal with the awkwardness of any of that. It just doesn't make sense. Or a person could just train with an enormous arch and exactly replicate the decline. So I'm really not a fan of it overall. Again, it's a partial bench press, and that's okay if that's what you want to train, but understand it for what it is. Alright guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time in part 3.